Right, everyone. Looks like it's about 10 a.m. So a few people signing in. Gonna just wait just a few moments. Hopefully you all can hear me and see me okay. It's a beautiful weather up here today. There was some fog. I was a little worried you guys might not be getting a view, but the fog has dissipated, just like I ordered. All right. So let me go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining me at the Hilltop today. My name is Elaine, and I'm a guide here and a ports presenter at Hearst Castle. So before we get started, a heads up on our connection. It can be a little glitchy as I move from place to place. Sometimes I drop out of Zoom briefly, especially when I go into the assembly room, but do not panic. I usually jump right back on, and I can usually tell where it's going to be very glitchy. So I stop talking. This webinar is approximately 45 minutes. It's for all ages, primarily from K to 12. There is some quizzes as we go along through the program. Play along at home if you have a pen and paper handy. Keep that nearby. Play along at home with your classmates. And if you can, use the emojis in the Zoom. You can answer that way, like a thumbs up or a heart or what have you. Now, if you can't join us for the entire webinar, or you have to leave early, we will be sad to see you go. But just to let you know that there will be a recording on our Hearst YouTube channel. So let me go ahead and bring up a picture of exactly where you can find it. There it is. So you can find it on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/at Hearst Castle San Simeon. Teachers, educators, if you would like a private virtual tour for your classroom, we have the rest of May. I know the first week of June would be our official last week of ports. Go to ports.parks.ca.gov. Click on Ports on Demand. There are so many amazing California State Parks ports programs that are both educational and fun, including us, Hearst Castle. And by the way, ports isn't limited to just classrooms only. We also encourage libraries, museums, senior care facilities, and more. Book a virtual tour with Hearst Castle Ports. The best part, it's free. And you can also find monthly webinars just like this one under Portscast in that same website. Don't forget to follow us also on Hearst Castle on social media, usually Facebook. We post a date and times of our monthly Portscasts. All right. Now that that's all done, welcome to Hearst Castle. Hearst Castle is an accredited museum. It's a historical monument and a state park. We're part of California State Park system. I'm sure you've all seen this patch on my sweater here. California State Parks since 1864. That's when it was developed to preserve all this beautiful land here in California. That way, if you come to Hearst Castle today, if you go to Yosemite today or 20 years from now, hopefully there won't be a Chipotle standing in these beautiful sites. It's to preserve. That's what state parks is for. There's 280 state parks. So if you cannot visit us here in San Simeon, go visit a state park near you. We are located in San Simeon, California. I believe I have a map that I can pull up here. And it is smack dab in the middle. When they say Central California, that is us. Smack dab in the middle. Let me see. There we go. Right there. San Francisco, maybe 4 or 5 hours. LA, San Diego, I mean, who can say? Just from this screenshot, there's traffic, right? But if you can make it out here, I promise you will not regret it. But before it was all those things, this was William Randolph Hearst's vacation home. Yeah. And before it was his vacation home, he had to have the help of Julia Morgan, his architect. And today, that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going on a journey to learn more about this incredible woman, Julia Morgan, brilliant architect who helped build this amazing place and also how she used science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Yes, that's STEAM to turn Mr. Hearst's wild dream into something real and absolutely spectacular. So first, who is Julia Morgan? Well, Julia Morgan, as we know her today, is the first licensed female architect in California, but she worked hard to get there. Let me pull up some pictures for you guys. All right. Julia Morgan graduated from UC Berkeley with a civil engineering degree. There she is. I circled her right there for you. Easy to spot. Now, she wants to go into architecture, but there was no architecture programs here in the United States. So in the East Coast, maybe, but she took her mentor's advice and decided to go to Paris. And she decides to apply to the École des Beaux-Arts, the Paris School of Fine Arts. Very hard to get there. She had to join something called an atelier. And essentially, there's a senior architect who will help you prepare for the exams. She is the only woman in that atelier, and she got bullied. They would push her off the benches, dump cold water on her head. So she had to go through a whole lot. Now, when she finally takes the exam, she has to take it 3 times. That's how hard the exam was. In fact, it wasn't expected for you to make it into the Paris School of Fine Art the first time. And the first time, Julie Morgan predictably did not make it, but she was top 40 of 300 plus applicants. She decides to take it again the second time, and she thought she did better. But when she didn't make it the second time, she wondered about that out loud. And one of her colleagues said, "They're scoring you low on purpose to discourage women from applying." They had just started taking women into the Paris School of Fine Art, and the men rioted when that was announced. Now, the third time she takes it, and now she is number 13 of 392 plus applicants. So she makes it, but she hits another obstacle. She is 27 by the time she is accepted. And most students at that time, it took them about 6 to 9 years to finish. Why is that a problem? Well, you have to be 30 by the time you graduate. At 27, she's got to do it in 3 years, and she does. Julia Morgan graduates 3 years, a month before she turns 30, and she gets that certificate. And she comes back here and she becomes the first licensed female architect in California. By the time Mr. Hearst picks up the phone, she is 42 years old and she has 502 projects under her belt. Now, this is amazing because when Mr. Hearst calls her, it's 1919, 502 projects under her belt before women get the right to vote. Now, when Mr. Hearst first called Julia Morgan, he wanted to just build one house. He told her it would take only 2 years, and instead, it took 28 years. Julia Morgan famously said that Mr. Hearst suffers from changeableness of mind. Yeah, that is an understatement because in a few weeks he decided he didn't just want one house up here. He wanted to build an entire village. So this village that we now have here that was put together by Mr. Hearst and Julia Morgan, it's a blend of art, architecture, engineering, and it's all inspired by the past and European culture. So imagine you're the architect, Julia Morgan. Mr. Hearst is showing you where he wants to build. They're driving in a car, and at the bottom of the hill, she probably sees the Pacific Ocean and goes, "Oh, he probably wants a mansion by the sea. Who wouldn't want a beachside mansion?" Well, the car stops, and outside, there's 2 horses at the bottom of the hill. And Julia Morgan questioned Mr. Hearst. "Mr. Hearst, why are there horses?" Mr. Hearst tells her, "Well, this is not where the spot is. The spot is all the way up in the hill." And turns out the site is so high, the car can't get there. So Julia Morgan, however, did not know how to ride horses. Tells Mr. Hearst, "Mr. Hearst, I'm 42 years old. I don't know how to ride a horse, and I'm not about to learn." So they got up there by taking the strongest horse, tying it to the front of the car, and they drove up there. And every time they had a hard time getting up here, the horse would help pull them up. That's how rough the terrain was. And finally, they made it up here 1,600 feet above sea level. That's roughly about 4.5 football acres high if you stack it on top of each other. So now, my first quiz for you all. And here is the quiz. Why, oh, why would Mr. Hearst build a huge home up here on the hill? Why not a beachside mansion? Is it A, to avoid wild animals, B, to challenge himself, or C, for the view? So talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you about 10 seconds or so to think of your answer. If you want, I'm going to read the question again. And if you want to answer A, B, or C, put a thumbs up. Okay, thumbs up on the emojis. If you think Mr. Hearst built a huge home on a hill to avoid wild animals. Okay, I see a few thumbs up. Avoid wild animals. How many of you, not more thumbs up, okay. How many of you to challenge himself? Thumbs up to challenge himself. To challenge himself. All right. How many of you think, wow, that's a lot to challenge himself. How many of you think C, it's for the view? Thumbs up. You think it's C, it's for the view. Oh, it is raining. Thumbs up. It's raining. Thumbs up. If you said, oh, that's a lot of thumbs up. Thanks. Thank you, everyone. Wow. Yes, yes, yes. And a few hearts there too. If you said the view, looks like a majority of you said the view. You are correct. I mean, come on. You can't blame the guy for that view. We are standing in what eventually becomes Mr. Hearst's backyard. His dad bought the first 40,000 acres of land here for a bargain price of 75 cents an acre. So if we had a time machine, if we had a DeLorean, you could go back in time and buy 6.5 football fields of land for $5. Mr. Hearst kept on buying land, and they owned about 240 acres of land here. So if this is his backyard, and they said, Mr. Hearst, or not Mr. Hearst, but if you, as a guest, they asked you, go run to the end of his backyard, you would have to run all the way to that mountain peak you could barely see back there. The other side of the mountain, that was the border of his land. That's how much land he had. That's a huge backyard. And this is exactly what Julia Morgan was looking at when she came up here. She saw this mountain view. Now, in this mountain view, she saw brush, bay laurel, and live coastal oak. All the other plants that you see up here, if you come visit at Hearst Castle, that was brought up by William Randolph Hearst. So, yes, amazing view, but Julia Morgan has her work cut out for her. So first, she has got to think, what material is she going to use to build up here? What kind of material is she going to use? And she ultimately chooses steel reinforced concrete. So steel reinforced concrete. And I have a question for you. So get your thinking hats on. Why, oh why, did Julia Morgan choose steel reinforced concrete? A, to save money, B, because it looks good, or C, to withstand earthquakes. All right, think it over, give it some thoughts. Are you ready with the thumbs up? How many of you say A, thumbs up, to save money? Thumbs up to save money. All right, see a few thumbs up. Steel reinforced concrete, save money. How many of you, oh, there's some more thumbs up. Okay, okay. How many of you say B, because it looks good? Thumbs up if you thought steel reinforced concrete looks great. All right. Okay. Got some thumbs up for B. Give you all a few more seconds. How many of you say, oh, a few more thumbs up for B. How many of you say C, to withstand earthquakes and fire? Here we go. It's a shower of thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you. Look at that. So if you said to withstand earthquakes and fire, ding, 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 pat yourself on the back. That's exactly why she chose that. Concrete and steel combined is really strong. How strong is it? Well, if you guys want to do this with me, if you hold your hands up like this and push together really hard, push as much as you don't have to do it with me. You can just watch me strain myself. That is called compression. So that's what concrete buildings have, compression, meaning a concrete building can hold a lot of weight. However, concrete can also easily crack if pulled apart. So if there's an earthquake, it'll pull it apart and the building just falls. Now hold your fingers up like this. Make a claw like you're going to scratch someone's eyes out, and then hook your fingers together and pull as hard as you can. That is tension. So that's when the steel rebar makes a difference in a concrete building. Let me go ahead and show you a picture of exactly what that looks like when they're building a steel reinforced concrete. All right. This is what it looks like. Bam. You got your steel, you got your concrete. So there's Mr. Compression and Mr. Tension, the superpower duo that buildings in California need. They're strong. They can withstand fires and earthquake. Their only weakness, pictures. They can't take a picture without blinking. Oh well, no one's perfect, right? So concrete is from the Latin word concretus, meaning grown together or compounded. So also, if you're studying ancient civilizations, you know that the one things that the Romans specifically mastered was concrete. The Romans discovered a volcanic material that had cementing properties called pozzolanic cement. Pozzolanic comes from the Romans using volcanic ashes from Pozzoli near Naples. I probably completely butchered that version, Pozzoli from Naples. Romans made concrete buildings and finished them by covering them with brick, marble, limestone. Mr. Hearst, he chooses limestone, but we'll get to that in just a bit. Now, one of the things Julia Morgan has to think about is, although the Hilltop looks like, now it looks like a place from the past, when you come here, you will see that it's very modern at the time, especially because the castle had electricity. So they used or they built a hydroelectric plant to generate electricity here in the 1920s, which was a luxury in the 1920s. Electricity was a luxury. So let me ask you all a question. Why was having electricity in the 1920s so special? A, it made everything easier to see. B, it's made it easier to charge their cars. Or C, most homes in the 1920s didn't have electricity. All right, give you a few seconds. How many of you say A? It made everything easier to see. Thumbs up. It's electricity. Made everything easier to see. Few thumbs up. All right. Get your answers in now. How many of you, lots of thumbs up for A. How many of you say B? Made it easier to charge your cars. A few thumbs up. How many of you say C? Most homes in the 1920s did not have electricity. Lots of thumbs up. Lots of thumbs up. Yeah. That's correct. If you said C, that's it. Only 35% of homes had electricity. And the fact that they could bring it all the way up here is a feat in of itself. So think about how we still do that today. How do we still use renewable energy today? So think about, aside from hydroelectric plants, what other things do we use, right? If you think about dams, you think about solar panels, wind turbines, we still use it today. So when Mr. Hearst approached Julia Morgan about building a house here, he told her it was all about the view. Let's look at that view once again. Amazing view. And then on the other side, there's a view of the Pacific Ocean. So Julia Morgan designed the guest cottages. Remember, more than just one house. There's 4 houses here. So she designed the guest cottages. Casa del Monte, House of the Mountain. He loves the view so much, he names the cottages after the view. This is Casa del Monte. It's the smallest one here. I say small with quotation marks because I feel like this would be just fine for me. 2,550 square feet, 10 homes, or 10 homes, 10 rooms, sorry. 2,550 square feet with 10 rooms. This is the smallest. What a shack, right? I'll take it. And then, of course, all the way back there is Casa del Sol, House of the Sun. That's a little bit bigger, over 3,000 square feet. And then there's Casa del Mar on the other side with a beautiful view of the Pacific Ocean. So she had to think every building had to have a beautiful view. And the way that she lays them out, so has a view of the surrounding hill. This is when Julia Morgan had to draw on her engineering knowledge. Helps that Julia Morgan graduated from UC Berkeley with an engineering degree in 1894. So he doesn't just want a house up here. He's building a village, and not just any village. It's a Mediterranean village from the 16th century, essentially. It's really good that Mr. Hearst made it super easy for Julia Morgan, right? Engineering skills, her engineering skills, she would have to focus on very critical areas when she's creating this small village that we see here. Some cottages in the main house. So first, site analysis. We kind of talked about that already. Engineers need to assess the land, especially up here on the hill. She has to assess the slope, stability, elevation, right? 1,600 feet above sea level. Make sure that the buildings are safe and well positioned. So after that, she's got to think of the structural integrity. We also talked about that. And, building through earthquake prone areas that requires materials like reinforced concrete, withstand natural disasters. Engineers must also consider utility planning, such as water, drainage, electricity. We talked about that too. That way, the village isn't just pretty to look at, it functions efficiently. So we talked about the hydroelectric plant to provide electricity, and they also built a gravity system that was used to get water from Pine Mountain up here or down here to the hilltop, because Pine Mountain is higher. It's at 3,000 feet above sea level. Look how pretty the flowers are today. So lastly, spatial planning. So engineers, architects, they collaborate to make sure that each building maximizes the views, and they kind of had their own little privacy. So everything is placed between the homes, and then also to create a pathway so that there's easy navigation between the structures. I was walking on it. That is the esplanade. That esplanade goes all the way around. So Julia Morgan combined her technical expertise with creativity to design a village that is both beautiful and functional. That is an overhead shot of the village that Mr. Hearst is planning. And when it was all said and done, what Julia Morgan did was create the Mediterranean village from 600 years ago. So I will explain how this is laid out like a village. The 3 guest cottages that line the property, that's the village. This esplanade that I was walking on, that is the road around the village. And if you went back in time and you went to the middle of that Mediterranean village, what do you see but a church in the middle? And you're probably like, wait a minute, it's called Hearst Castle. Well, he never calls it a castle. In fact, that's what he's not inspired by a castle. Parts of it is inspired by a castle, but mostly this is supposed to represent a church. He doesn't call it a castle, he calls it Casa Grande, the big house. The 4 other cottages are named after the view. This is named for its size. I'm gonna walk up here real quick. Hopefully it doesn't glitch out too much on me. And then I'll walk over and get a wonderful view of the plaza. And then we're going to go walk over here and get a nice overview of the castle, all right? So look at that. What a great view. Casa Grande is 137 feet tall, 68,500 square feet, 115 rooms, 38 bedrooms, 42 bathrooms, and 14 sitting rooms. So it lives up to its name. And meanwhile, he is giving Julia Morgan pictures and getting inspired. So for example, those towers, inspired by a church in Ronda, Spain. That really dark wood up there, that's teak wood from Thailand. Saw a building in Sanguisa, Spain with a similar cornice. He couldn't get it, so he just had it made. Julia Morgan hires Jules Supo to carve it out for him. Front of the castle, front of Casa Grande, that was inspired by a castle, a fortified palace in Seville, Spain. So what a project that they had. Now, As a Mediterranean village from the 16th century, Mr. Hearst also wanted the theme to reflect in the art. So he not only wanted the outside to look like a Mediterranean village from 600 years ago, he also wanted it inside. So of course he's got to bring all this art up here. Mr. Hearst has 2,000 pieces that Julia Morgan has to figure out how to get up here. And he's telling her through letters and telegrams where he wants these art pieces to go. So he's not just getting paintings and sculptures, he's getting everything. Let's go inside. Actually, I'm going to go this way, folks. Sorry. We're going to go right this way. This would have been the front door, but that's not what we're going to use because beyond that is a 1400-year-old Roman tile. We're going to go through the south entrance and get inside Casa and look at how Julia Morgan and Mr. Hearst incorporated all those pieces of art that he had up here. All right, let's go in there. Might glitch out a little bit here, okay? So if I'm not talking, don't worry, I'm still here. Hi. There we go. All right, folks. There we are. Here we are in the assembly room. So Mr. Hearst was a different kind of art collector because he's not just buying paintings and sculptures. Most art collectors were buying paintings and sculptures. Remember, he wants the inside to look like a living room from 600 years ago. So it's paintings, sculptures, tables, chairs, doors, doorknobs, rugs, ceilings, tapestries. Everything here is part of his collection. Remember that electricity I was talking about? 300 light bulbs. What a contrast right on a 16th century Italian ceiling. So what does this mean, 16th century Renaissance? Well, it means a lot of things, but Renaissance is French for rebirth. I'm going to go into the dining room here. All right, here we go. Well, looks like we're getting crowded out, guys. Hold on one second. We'll stand right here. Okay. So Renaissance is rebirth. It's French for basically going back and being inspired by the past. So artists and architects at that time would use ancient works for inspiration. And during that time, artists were paid well. They had more freedom to express themselves and try out new techniques. Because in the Middle Ages, statues and paintings usually depicted gods, saints, and kings. We're going to try to sneak out of here right this way. And later on, let me see if I can get a connection here. Hold on one second. All right. So most paintings, as I said, were usually gods and kings because they were the only ones that had the money to commission art pieces like this. If humans were depicted in paintings, we were usually like sinners. So the artists were very limited in what they could paint. It had to fit in with the church desire. Now, the Renaissance, there was a middle class at the time, especially the Medici family. So the Medici family, they were a banking family, and they're very wealthy businessmen, and they showed their pride in city and community by investing in commissioning artists who were now well paid. So they weren't limited to what the church wanted. They had more creative freedom to experiment with their skills. That's when great artists emerged that we still know today, like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Botticelli, And then something called humanism came into play during the Renaissance. So they're again drawing from Greek and Roman art to celebrate the human figure, human beauty and strength. So humanism focused on our essential goodness. So during the Middle Ages, like I said, humans were rarely added into the paintings. But in the Renaissance, I would like to say that that's when, it was our main character era. We wanted to be depicted as majestic and wonderful and celebrated for who we are. So the Renaissance is also about beauty and scale and perspective. And if you look around here, lots of beauty, lots of scale, lots of perspective. So very, very Renaissance. So I have a question to ask you all right? Let's see here. If I can pull it up. What does symmetry mean in art and buildings? What does symmetry mean in art and buildings? I'm going to head on out. And as I walk around, you can see lots of examples of symmetry and art. So is it A, a pattern of uneven shapes? Hold on, it's gonna glitch right here, guys. Give me 1 second. Is it a pattern of uneven shapes? Emojis if you can hear me, if I've come back to life already. There we go, yay, thank you guys. Such great help. So A, is it a pattern of uneven shapes? B, balance of mirror images on both sides? Or C, lots of color? Okay, ready, get ready. On your thumbs up, how many of you say A, a pattern of uneven shapes? Symmetry, a pattern of uneven shapes. How many of you say B, balance or mirror images on both sides? Lots of thumbs up. All right. Finally, how many of you say C, lots of color? Lots of color. So for those of you who said B, balance or mirror images, you are correct. So this is just an example. You look at the front door. My trick is if you could print that out on a piece of paper and fold it in half, with those two sides come together and match, that's how you know it's symmetrical, balance and proportion. If you printed out the castle, Casa Grande, out on a piece of paper and folded it, would those two towers match if you folded it? It would. So yes. Now, why was the art so amazing back in the day versus the Middle Ages? Well, a big thing during the art of the Renaissance was something called linear perspective. It was a drawing technique that gave illusion to depth. So they were turning something that was 2D and they were making it look 3D. And painting started out as fairly flat. And then later, artists learned about linear perspective. So I'll show you a quick example of what a painting looked like, primarily before the Renaissance. Like I said, most of them looked flat. It looked like that. So that's Jesus in the Last Supper. Kind of looks like a table, maybe. It looks like they're behind like a platform or something. And everything is sort of you could just tell that there's no kind of 3D. It's very 2D. But when later they started learning about linear perspective, it starts to look more realistic. And the reason for that is they figured out how to create a background, a middle ground, and a foreground. So if you have a pencil or paper handy now, take it out and you can join me in learning how to create something called a vanishing point. So vanishing point, let me see here, where's the whiteboard? All right, so I'm going to show you a whiteboard. This is really easy. I'm not the best artist, but this is really easy to do. So I want you all to draw a line like that all the way across, okay? And then I want you all to draw a vanishing point, just like right there, okay? I don't have a stylus with me, so it's a little bit sloppy, but you'll get the gist, okay? So there's your vanishing point. Now, I want you all to draw a house, just a 2D house right there. Boom, boom, front, okay? Very 2D. How do you make that 3D? Well, use the vanishing point. Take all the points of this house, the very top of the house, the very corner of the house, and that corner of the house. And now you are all artists and you made yourself a 3D house. There's a front, there's a side, you could even put a window there. The vanishing point is what you're going to use to determine how big the item or person's going to be. So the closer to the vanishing point, the smaller. So this could be like a little road. You could draw a little tree back there, but as it gets closer, your tree gets a lot bigger and a lot bigger. And now you kind of have a 3D aspect. Okay, this isn't the best, okay? I don't have my stylus with me, but you could see the point of having a vanishing point and using that linear perspective. Essentially, they are using math and art combined to create these amazing pictures and paintings. So I have a question to ask you all right? I have a question to ask. Get your thumbs ready on your thumbs up. There we go. Why does perspective make a drawing look 3D? A, it uses shading. B, it shows depth by having lines meet at a vanishing point. Or C, it adds color. So thumbs up if you think A, it uses shading. Thumbs up if you think A, it uses shading. All right. How many of you say B, it shows depth by having lines meet at a vanishing point? That's pretty easy, huh? Lots of thumbs up, lots of thumbs up. All right. Feel like everybody said B. How about C? It adds color. C, it adds color. All right. Yeah, we know. I just told you the answer to that. It's B. It shows depth by having lines meet at a vanishing point. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a walk around this Mediterranean village. I'm right behind Sekhmet. Sekhmet is the oldest artifact here on the property. It's not Italian or Spanish, it's actually Egyptian. So we're going to walk around here. And now we could see the other view. How beautiful is that? We have a little bit of fog there, but Casa del Mar, House of the Sea. Isn't that pretty? There you go. So Mr. Hearst also had Egyptian artifacts here. Remember, they broke ground in 1920. 1920, they found King Tut's tomb. So he decided to get in on it because they had what's called Egyptomania in 1920. Everybody was all about things Egyptian, and so was Mr. Hearst. So Mr. Hearst, he was trying to be trendy here. He wanted to get in on the trend. So we're going to walk around the village here. Now, if I show you a Mediterranean village from a long time ago, it would look like this. The Mediterranean village at the time, this is what it would look like. So as I said before, you had your houses kind of lining around the church. But then over here, what is that? Those are ruins right outside of the village. Well, guess what? Mr. Hearst has ruins too. So we're going to go over there. So Casa Grande isn't the only iconic spot here. Where I'm going to is pretty iconic. When people visit here, it doesn't matter if it's 2 months ago or 20 years ago, this is something that they remember. This is ingrained in your brain once you see it. So remember when I spoke about Mr. Hearst wanting his own village, he also has the Roman ruins. And that's where we're going to right now. All right, we're going to kind of walk around the tour here. Hold on one second. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Okay. Sorry, folks. Trying to get over here. All right. So you're going to enjoy this little walk here. Beautiful flowers out today. Beautiful weather, beautiful flowers. Excuse me, folks. So we're going to the Roman ruins right outside of town. He didn't want Roman ruins here, though. He originally just wanted a rose garden. His wife and 5 kids told him, this is our vacation home. It gets really hot up here. How about we build a pool? I think some of you already know where I'm going. He tells Julia Morgan, build a pool here, temporarily at least. And then he really liked it. Became more permanent. A second version was put in. And then a third version was put in. Most of you probably already know that I'm making my way to the Neptune Pool. Now you can really see why people remember this. Out of anything else up here on the hilltop, people remember this pool, because why wouldn't you? There it is, the Neptune Pool. The Neptune Pool is 104 feet long, 58 feet wide, 95 feet wide here at the alcove. And remember I said, wait, it's going to be his Roman ruins? He has literal Roman ruins right there. Neptune and the 2 sea nymphs, about 400 years old. See the pediment, how it's different colors? Mr. Hearst is buying ruins and bringing them back here. Craftsmen are putting it together like a puzzle. So the ruins plus the columns beneath that are 2,000 years old. Neptune Pool holds 345,000 gallons. That is a lot of water. And this was water from Pine Mountain. One of the really hard things that Julie Morgan had to figure out when building this pool was it is on a downhill slope. So you're actually looking at an above ground pool. Now, 345,000 gallons, I want my math geniuses to step up to our next quiz. How many regular swimming pools would fit in the Neptune Pool? Regular swimming pool is about 20,000 gallons each. About 20,000 gallons for a regular pool. Neptune Pool, 345,000 gallons. So do some math there. I'll give you a few moments. All right. How many of you, was that long enough? How many of you think about 10? A, about the 10. Thumbs up, about 10. Okay. Anybody else? How many of you would say B? About 17. 17. And how many of you would say, oh, a couple more for B's, about 20? How many of you would say C, about 20? All right. Well, for those of you, a couple more answers there. C. For those of you who said B, you are correct. About 17, 18-ish for the Neptune Pool. The Neptune Pool, remember I said about modern house? This was heated to 70, 75 degrees. Beautiful weather today. Let's jump in. But even if the weather wasn't beautiful, it would have been nice to jump in because, again, it was heated. So I'm going to go right over here, get you a really nice view of the Neptune Pool. If you ever come and visit, you can get a really close-up look of the Neptune Pool. Look at that. And it fits this theme. It's right there by the Roman ruins. All right. Okay. Well, here we are. Julia Morgan ran her office in San Francisco at the Merchants Exchange Building for about 40 years, and she closed in 1951. Julia Morgan was 79 years old, and she passed away February 2nd, 1957, at 85 years old. And this was just a side job for her, believe it or not. Ultimately, when she closes her doors, 700 projects under her belt. The only architect that comes close to her is Frank Lloyd Wright. I think he had like 400 or 500 or so. So Julia Morgan, really amazing architect, and was a huge part in creating what we see on the Hilltop today. Now, before you head out, here's something to think about. Science, technology, engineering, art, math, STEAM is everywhere. It's in the house here. It's in the house you live in. The phone, the tablet you use, even the backpack you're carrying, uh, all instituted STEAM. So just something to think about. Anyways, it looks like we're almost done here. I hope you all enjoyed yourselves as we go through this webinar. Thank you so much for participating, for using the thumbs up. I hope you learned a lot about Julia Morgan and how really STEAM kind of embodies everything around us. And again, if you happen to miss part of this, or you know somebody who wants to watch this, it will be up on the Hearst Castle YouTube page, usually within 24 hours. So on behalf of myself, California State Parks, and Hearst Castle, I want to thank you all for exploring the castle with me and learning more about the pioneering female architect who was a huge part of history here at Hearst Castle, Julia Morgan. Again, you've been an awesome crew. I hope you get to visit us here soon. Until then, stay curious, dream big, and we'll see you all next time. All right? Bye, everyone. Thanks. Bye.